sis and tell, a whole lot of talk, a whole lot of nothing. Amanda does stand up, Alison's on TV, and when they hop on the phone, you already know it's the place you wanna be. Sis and tell, the podcast that's so sweet. Oh, sis and tell, sis and tell, a whole lot of talk about, a whole lot of nothing. Sis and tell.
Hey, Allie.
Hey, man. What's going on?
Well, it's going to sound like we're starting a crime podcast when I say this.
Should I? Wait. I need to insert the Law and Order. Right?
Right. Sis and tell, a whole lot of crime about a whole lot of nothing. And it's because Mommy has been sending me death threats.
What? Has she been doing this in her sleep? You know she can get very violent in her sleep.
Oh, yeah. She punched Daddy in her sleep. And
You're not supposed to talk about that. She's going to be very upset.
Oops. All right. So 300 people in the world now know that she did that. But anyway, no. And I guess it's not really death threats, just threatening me that I might die, and not at her hands, only at my own if I don't listen to her advice. So we have winter break for school right now, which we're still virtual, right? But we get a week off of school in February, and Mommy and Daddy have a place in Destin, Florida, and it's a ghost town here, and it's 45 degrees, but it's
right, which explains why it's a ghost town.
So the first night, Mommy is like, make sure there's a latch on the door, and make sure that you latch the door. Keep in mind that it's like a gate. It's gated. It's all older people, as Mommy prefers me to say. They're on the 11th floor. And I said, well, of course I put the latch on, because we grew up in a house where if we had 40 people in the house, Daddy put the chain on and
the alarm on. Right.
Yeah. And then she calls me back and is like, I just want to make sure that you have locked the sliding glass door to the balcony. And I was like,
because Spider-Man's coming up and he's going to break in.
Right. I was like, what are you talking about? She goes, someone could break in through the balcony. I was like, how? How is someone going to scale the building?
Are there hang gliders who are so expertly adept at their profession or at their craft that they can land on the balcony?
It's turned into
covertly
Mission Impossible AARP style, right? It's someone's coming in from. Anyways, so and they're like, no, that's ridiculous. No one's going to scale the building. We're worried that someone's going to break into the apartment next door and crawl around.
And then go balcony hopping, right?
Right. And I was like, seriously, you really think that's a possibility? We're not on the first floor or the second. We're on the 11th. You think someone's going to break into the apartment next door and take the chance, and I'm looking at it right now, take the chance and climb over the railing, scooch over and climb back over here? Why would you take that chance? Are you that desperate? I think anyone who is that like motivated to get in here is probably more motivated to stay out of jail or the hospital, right?
Right.
Anyways, but I did. I locked the
I was going to say, and then you probably locked it immediately, and then you pulled the shades just in case.
Right. It freaked me out. I said I'm more concerned about a plane hitting the building because there's a private airport on the other side of us, and these planes go over our head, and it feels like they're about to hit us. It really does. And then Mommy said, well, yes, that happened to Michael Pizitz. She's got a story, literally.
What? A plane hit his building?
Yeah. She literally has a story to scare you from doing
anything. Yeah.
So and they're all true. They all happened.
So just in case, we're not neurotic enough because she has instilled in us the fear of the what if scenario. She's now moved on to the next generation. I just want you to know. So as long as we're tattling on Mommy, we'll just call this the episode where we tattle on Mommy. So Arthur, as you know, has COVID. he is working out west, and luckily where he works, they've got an amazing setup. So he is in the employee housing. He's on, the top floor, and he's in his own room and sequestered. They bring him food, and it's amazing. So Mommy calls him the other day and is like, well, are you by yourself? He goes, yeah, I'm quarantined. I've got COVID, right? And luckily he feels good. Well, she goes, you sound very stuffy. Those are the only symptoms he has is congestion, which, by the way, anybody working outside in Colorado right now is congested, whether you have COVID or not. Let's just be clear. So she starts to say, she's repeating this to me. Well, what happens if in the middle of the night you can't breathe? And he goes, oh, okay, like, what you mean through my nose?
I blow my nose?
Yeah, I blow my nose and I breathe through my mouth. She goes, but what if you find you really can't breathe? What are you going to do? He goes, I guess I'll call down to, I don't know, the health department. She goes, the health department is not open in the middle of the night. It is closed after 5 p.m. and it is also closed on the weekend. And in fact, I was talking to him on a Saturday when it was closed. So he goes, I guess I called 911. She goes, very good answer. Thank you. Right? I'm like, oh my gosh. Luckily, he's so laid back.
If he can't breathe.
How can he make the 911 call, right? Then she was concerned that I kept saying, well, he's, feels okay, but he, and he doesn't have fever. Well, how does he know? I go, I don't know. I think you can kind of tell when you have fever. She goes, but he has no idea. So, of course, this gets me going.
Did she get someone to kiss his head? Yeah. Is that how he's doing it? Arthur, I want you to go knock on your neighbor's door and you ask them to kiss your head. And if you feel warm, and then get them to take the back of their hand and touch the back of your neck. That's how you know.
Mm-hmm. That's how you know. With lips. Lips are the way to go. Well, with the absence of lips and someone willing to kiss his forehead, I just asked him the other day, I go, do you have any fever? He goes, nope. I go, how do you know? And he goes, I have a thermometer. I said, oh, that's good to know. And I said, will you please text Nene that you have a thermometer? He goes, why? I said, because she's making me crazy, like assuming you don't and what's going to happen in all these what if scenarios. Can you just do it? So he's like, yes, ma'am. So, of course, what happens last night? Mommy calls me. Did you tattle on me to Arthur and tell him? And I go, yes, I did. If you're asking and you're making me crazy and I'm making him crazy, then he's going to shove it right back up the chain. And there you go. It's come full circle. He has a thermometer. Can we all pipe and settle? Yeah.
She tells on herself, because this is also the same person who, when she was quote unquote watching your children when they were all like basically grown
right.
young adults, and she couldn't find Arthur, she flipped out and tried calling him, and he was just like in the shower.
Yeah.
Right.
Leaving him messages. Where are you? He's like, I was in the shower. Yeah.
Why did you lock the door to the bathroom, Arthur? What if you were showering and the shampoo makes you slip and you fall and we can't get to you? No locking the bathroom door.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I mean, and Arthur and Abe have not done it, but Levi has proven himself to be unreliable as a child, not as a teenager and more mature young adult. But
you mean
we used to call him Houdini. There were 3 different episodes. I won't go into all of them, but briefly, one time when Alan had him with the boys, I was out of town. They were at the lake and they couldn't find him, and luckily did, and he was fine. One time,
how old was
he was, oh gosh, 3 or 4, because he was into the Wiggles. Yeah. And then one time when our babysitter was here and about to drive them to tennis, which is only like a 3/4 of a mile away, but on a very busy street. And he decided he was just going to walk, and said he told the babysitter, who said, of course you did not tell me. And luckily he was fine. The worst, of course, is the Disney World experience.
I can't believe we haven't told this story.
I know. It is amazing because it was, well, it's not amazing because it really was one of the most traumatic stories. And I wouldn't tell it on the podcast if Mom and Dad hadn't actually been there for this to happen. So we were all traumatized. But so Levi was like 18 months, and we were a big Disney family, right? I mean, I know people like there's either Disney families or there's not. There's people I'm sure listening who are sworn to never go to Disney World. We love Disney World. So much so that for Arthur's 16th birthday, that might have been the last time we went, we surprised him with a trip, right? So, but we would go almost every fall break just for a few days. And when Levi was, I want to say 18 months old, because he was definitely walking and talking and in diapers. Maybe he was
a little
2.5.
Yeah, because Murray was a baby.
Okay.
Because we didn't go. Murray was because y'all would not have gone so close to Murray being born. Mommy and Daddy wouldn't have gone with you.
Yeah. Okay.
It was
so
after
he was
Murray was born.
Probably, well, 2.5. Yeah, he'd probably still be in
That's
diapers.
what I think. Yeah.
So this is back to, but this ties into the what if scenarios, right? And how our neuroses have evolved over time. So we had, and literally, you know, we were all staying in the same complex, right? And there were a lot. So it was our family, Stuart and Melissa, and I think 2 of their kids, right? It had to be Layla and Noah. My in-laws, so my mother-in-law, right? Amelia was there, and Owen. Mom and Dad were there. And Beth, Alan's sister, and her family. So and all of our rooms were pretty much like in line. Like maybe you skipped a few rooms, but between all of our rooms, we took up almost an entire floor. With that said, we had an adjoining room set up with the 3 boys. And because, of course, here's my what if. So we have the doors that combine, and I left them open, but I thought, well, what if they close their door in the middle of the night? And I've already put, you know, of course, I'd do the little latch at the top so that the security latch at the top of the hotel room door. So that latch is closed, and they've closed the door, and I can't get to them.
So they become trapped.
Right. And they were young. So if Levi's 2.5, right, they were 2.5, 4.5, and 6.5, right? These are not kids you want trapped in a room, especially not all together. Who knows what they would do?
I feel like Arthur's also a deep sleeper. So you would have been banging on that door being like, Arthur, open the door.
Oh, yeah.
And he would have just yeah.
So what I figured is, okay, I'm not going to be so crazy and I'm not going to put that little, and you know what I'm talking about? What is it?
It's the latch.
The latch at the top of the door. So I didn't do the latch on the top of their door because I thought the chance of somebody breaking in is nil. The chance of them actually closing the door between our rooms is pretty high. So I wake up the next morning, and this is how it goes. Stuart calls, and he says, Allie, 7 a.m. Allie, is Levi in his bed? I'm like, is Levi in his bed? And I go, yeah, I can't imagine why not. He goes, could you check for me? I'm like, sure, Bubba. So I go into their room, and there I see Arthur, and there I see Abe, and I turn like the little corner around the little bureau where there's a pull-out or, you know, a fold-away bed, and it's empty. I'm like, I have to go. Bye. I hang up the phone. I go out the door. Alan's already up, and he's shaving. He goes, where are you going? I go, I have no idea, but I have to go. So I'm still in my pajamas.
So you don't tell him Levi's not in the room?
No, I am just on panic mode. Oh, and Stuart must have said the front desk is called, and yes, and they have a Levi there. So can you check to see if your Levi is there? So I knew where I was going. So I'll go to the front desk, and of course I go to the lobby. There is nobody in the lobby except for, it really is a crazy story, except for what looks like to be 2 of the hotel staff, including the hotel manager, a security guard, and Levi in a very, very full, you know, diaper and no glasses, and he's coloring, right? Yeah, you're right. He had to be 2.5 because I don't think maybe he had glasses and didn't have them on, right? So, and he looks up and he goes, hi, Mommy. I go, hi, baby. How are you? And he goes, good. So they're like, is this your child? I'm like, it is my child. And at this point, I'm just like, what, you walked outside and they gave you a coloring book? Like, okay. And they're like, could we see some ID? I go, yes. So they walk me back.
What floor were you on?
On the main floor. Sorry, we're on the main floor, so the first floor. So literally, there's no escalator or elevator you have to take to our room. The lobby, you turn the corner, there's our floor and our room. So we go back to my room, and I go in, and Alan's like, what is going on? I go, just give me a second, I'll explain. So I show him my ID, and the manager and the security guard go, okay. They said, so Levi, I said, yes, this is Levi. They go, so Levi has been out for what we assume is the past hour or hour and a half. Jeez. And around 5:30 in the morning, Alan woke up, and I was, back then at least, a pretty deep sleeper, and thought he heard a door slam, right? But then didn't think anything of it. You know, just, oh, that must have been something. Well, it was Levi, and when I tell you these hotel room doors are the heaviest things you have ever tried to open, right? Like I don't know where he got the strength, but
he's also the size. You have to. Levi at 2.5 was the size of a 5-year-old.
yeah, he was pretty big.
He was big. Like, you're not talking about a 2-year-old trying to reach up to a door handle. It's basically the size of a 5-year-old with a 2-year-old mind.
Yeah. So he got out, and what I can only surmise is, like, there was a part of the hotel where you could, like, during the day get snacks, right? And they had cookies. And the day before, he had wanted cookies before bed. I'm like, no, there's no more cookies. So I think he wanted to find the cookies, is what I assume. But they have him on video, right? Eventually.
Like a true Goldstein, food motivated.
Right, he is motivated by food. They turn back the video, and they have him going onto the elevator, going up and down the elevator.
Oh my God.
Walking around the hotel, and then finally, this is the worst part, which really makes me upset, but walking out the hotel room door, and the gardener found him by the pool, right? So at this stage, I'm confident he did not know how to swim. All of our boys knew how to swim, like almost literally to save their lives at age 3, but he was not 3 because I know he did not know how to swim. So the fact that he was walking around a pool, right? The gardener brought him back in, was smart enough to bring him into the building. And they said, okay, what's your name? He goes, Levi. And they say, what's your last name? He did not know. So
I can't believe he didn't cry at any point. Like, going up and down the elevator, that, like, he was not upset. Like, he's so independent from a young age,
yeah.
Right? He had a goal in his head, and that was more important than I'm lost.
Yeah, no, he didn't. He was never, sort of like rattled by all of this, as far as we could tell. But he started to get rattled when they started the interrogation. They're like, "What's your name, Levi? What are your parents' names, Mommy and Daddy? Okay, where do you live? Where's your thing?" So he was smart enough. He knew exactly what floor we were on. He was off by one door, okay? So literally we had almost the entire hall. Like, my mother-in-law was in one door. Our parents are in another. Beth is across the hall. Then there are 2 rooms. The one room that was not our family, he said, this is where I live, right? He got confused. So they knock on the door. Some people show up. And they're like, is this your son? They're like, no. And so they go back. And so they keep asking him, what's your name? What's your parents' name? Like, nobody's coming to get him, right? And so finally they're like giving him coloring, and finally he breaks down, and they say, what is your name, Levi? And out of pure frustration, to this day we have no idea why, he screams out, I want to see Rabbi Goldstein. No.
I thought you had a visiting rabbi named Rabbi Goldstein.
So he was not a visiting rabbi. We had a permanent rabbi at our synagogue named Rabbi Goldstein.
I want to see Rabbi Goldstein.
The irony is, he also had this irrational fear of Rabbi Goldstein, so much so that when we would go into the synagogue, and Alan was president of the synagogue, right? This is a very layered story. We would walk in the synagogue, and Levi would almost he'd be shaking out of anxiety. He's like, where's Rabbi Goldstein? We're like, he's like over there. He's like, we're like, he's like the most docile, like laid back sort of bohemian guy. He had sort of a beard, but like one of those cool yarmulkes. There was nothing scary about him.
He was afraid of the facial hair.
It
You know how
wasn't
kids
really
get weird about certain things?
Maybe, but he was legitimately terrified of Rabbi Goldstein, and I have no idea why. So the fact
that he's like asking for him like he's asking for a lawyer, right? He's being interrogated. He goes, I need my lawyer.
I need my lawyer.
Rabbi Goldstein.
Yes. So he goes, I want to see Rabbi Goldstein. He gets out that sentence. So what do? They go through the directory of the guests staying there. And sure enough, as anybody knows listening to this podcast, our maiden name is Goldstein. Well, it's not my name on the registration, but my parents are Goldsteins and my brother is Goldstein. And I don't know in what universe the spirits, were lucky enough to get them to choose Stuart and not Milton Goldstein. Thank God, because it would have been a much different outcome.
She would have burst into tears.
Well, and she did. We all burst into tears eventually. But so they call Stuart.
Mommy would have thought that something happened to you.
Yeah.
She would have thought that they were going to open up your hotel room and find you guys.
Yeah. Oh,
she would.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Like with the scenarios I would have gone through it. So now we're caught up to 7 in the morning. A minute before Stuart calls me, he gets a call from the front desk, and they said, "Yes, may I speak to a Rabbi Goldstein, or is a Rabbi Goldstein there?" And Stuart goes, "Well, I'm not a rabbi, but I've, actually been called that once or twice, but, I am a Goldstein. How can I help you?" They said, "We're so sorry, but we have a little boy here named Levi who is lost, and we can't find where his room is." And he said to find Rabbi Goldstein, to which Stuart, of course, said, "Well, my sister has a son named Levi. Let me call her." So now we are caught up to the whole chain of events. So I am listening to this whole story unfold. And then at that moment, I just burst into tears because I realized it's not like he kind of walked outside for 5 minutes. He had been gone for a long, long time. Now, I think Disney now, I always said Disney should have, which they do now, and at the time they did not, but wristbands where if a child is lost, they only like the Disney staff members, they don't call them.
They chip. It's like a chip.
Like a
they
chip.
Put the dog.
Yeah. But the Disney, what do they call them? They don't call them staff. They call them
cast members.
Cast members, right. Where only a cast member could do scan it and say, okay, this is who this is who he belongs to. And that would have been 2 seconds because their security is unbelievable. And thank God we were at Disney because, so anyway, Levi, we have never, ever, ever let him live down that story. As you can tell, right, I still have PTSD from it, but that was just one of many times where he has decided just to sort of disappear. He's gotten better with age. Now he tells us when he gets in the car to go somewhere at least.
Oh my God.
But when I look back, right, it's like looking back, like I feel like there are times where you look back on your own teenage world or self, or even 20s, and think of all the stupid stuff you did and, oh my gosh, but we survived. So now we also have to look back on all the stuff our kids have done, right? And how we have survived as parents. It's freaky.
But also it's no matter what precautions you take, stuff happens, right? And it's the unpredictable stuff. Like you can't protect them from everything, which is also why as much as cautious as mommy and daddy have been with us, they also didn't want to keep us from experiencing the world, right?
Right.
They sent us, they're like, go wherever you want for college, right? They didn't want to keep us in Birmingham. They
sent us to Massachusetts for camp, for goodness sake, right?
They I was flying by myself at a very young age. I mean, I know there was probably a Delta flight attendant watching over me, like a guardian angel, but like we were still raised as very independent children who were afraid of being decapitated by elevators. Right?
And let's be clear, back then, there was no Delta agent watching over you. They didn't care, right? Like
right.
all of this, like having to pay $150 each way for an unaccompanied minor, that's bogus. Like we were flying when we were 6 and nobody cared.
Right.
It's like wearing seatbelts. You'll be fine.
You'll be okay.
You'll make it there, right?
Seatbelt, schmeatbelt. So I have an addiction that I think we need to talk about. That I've never
Another
really
one? You seem to have a
I
long list. Okay.
They're all like digital addictions, right? This one is kind of weird. I mean, I guess they're all weird, but as someone who I also dance around in a banana costume, so I think I've elevated what weird is for myself. But I'm addicted to creating Facebook groups. I have created so many.
How many?
Like probably 20.
No.
And for weird things, yeah. From things that make sense, like I created a Cartoon Network alumni page. That makes sense. I created another alumni page for another company I worked with. And I've created a page for fans of people who like to dip French fries into Frosties, like the Wendy's Frosties.
I do like to do that. I had no idea you had a page for that. I need to join.
Great. But Facebook has evolved. So like there used to be groups and pages, and then anyways, they're all kind of dead. 1 million strong for Ad Rock being on The Walking Dead. I created that page. And then I created a page also for Amanda Goldsteins. for all the Amanda Goldsteins in the world, right? And I was like, I'm a proactive person though. I'm not just going to say I'm going to create a page called I Am Amanda Goldstein. I'm also going to invite all the Amanda Goldsteins to join. So I started friending all these Amanda Goldsteins, and some Amanda Goldsteins are nicer than others. I should really say some Amanda Goldsteins are meaner than others because some a few of them got like really offended that I was friending them, and it was obvious why I was friending them, and it was because we had the same name, right? And they would say, "Why are you friending me?" Because we have the same name. And I'm like, "Yeah, obviously, come join my Amanda Goldstein fan club for ourselves." Also, there's like a documentary about this name. It was like, I wanted to say like Steve Tyler, but obviously that's like a musician, Steven Tyler. But it was a name like that. It was like Doug Smith or something like that, where everyone who was a Doug Smith was in this documentary, and they're like, does your name affect who you become? Right? That was like the essence of it. So I was like, are all the Amanda Goldsteins awesome? Because I know we are, right? But no, not all of us are, because some of them are mean and don't want to join my group. And then something happened the other day to you that made me remember I had this page.
And I didn't even know about the Amanda Goldstein, my name is Amanda Goldstein Facebook page, until I told you the other day I was getting on a Zoom meeting. Surprise, surprise, a Zoom meeting these days. And part of the agenda item was introducing a new staff member named Amanda Goldstein, which of course I got very excited. It is very exciting when you see the name. And so I start, of course, side messaging her saying, okay, you could be part of our family. My maiden name is Goldstein, and explain, my sister's Amanda. And she was like, oh my gosh, totally. So I feel like after just, an hour Zoom and hearing from her, she is by far a dynamic and very cool and very sweet Amanda Goldstein. I think she's going to make a lovely addition to your Facebook page. I think she will be a great counterbalance to the ones that were rude to you.
The only addition. I think I'm the only
left. I did go there because I told her about, then I actually went to your Facebook page, and I think you have a member who was basically like, woohoo, this is cool.
Yeah.
And I'm friends with at least one other Alison Goldstein, but
I
think we spell it the same, but the funny thing is, we have mutual friends that for like not just like in the past 5 years since Facebook was around, but like for the past 20, 30 years, like since college, have said, wait, do you know the other Alison Goldstein? And so we did not even connect until we both took Goldstein as our middle name, our maiden name, but now we are friends. And I love seeing when her name pops up. I don't know what it is. It is a weird thing, but it makes me really happy.
So I have a friend named Joel, not one of the ones that you know, and he made some Facebook post where he's like, let's debate this topic. And he didn't say which side he was on. And then people started debating it, and he started piping in and saying the craziest things. And I was just shocked. And he was being really rude to one of our friends. And I couldn't believe it because it seemed so out of character. And this went on for an hour. And then he made a post within the post and said to our friend that he was so rude to, by the way, that's not me. That's a different Joel who has the same exact name as me. And it was a friend of his who had the exact same name. And to me, if I was friends with someone with my exact same name and I was posting something that was political, I would be so upset that he was so like, hey, by the way, that's not me, right? He was so laid back about it. I would have been like, I'm kicking you off my page, namesake.
Now, do you have friends who have the same name? Like, and you can get easily confused? Because I have a couple of those.
What you mean? Oh, do I have? No, I don't think.
So I have two friends named Will Hunt. One's much younger. So I have like in my contacts, Big Will Hunt, right, for the adult version. And then I have two friends named Susan Stern, but one goes by Susie, so it's easy. But the other Susan Stern often gets like messages or emails or stuff for the other one. So they often will joke, and they know each other, right, to say, hey, I got this from you. But it does get confusing when you have, especially names like that just kind of pop up and they're the same. But yeah, the Facebook thing makes it even more confusing.
Right. Yeah. No, and every time I meet a Goldstein, I get excited. But Goldstein is such a generic last name, like Smith Or Jones. So it's the equivalent of someone meeting like a Jones and being like, oh my God, I'm a Jones too, right? But because we grew up Jewish in Alabama, we just, our community is so small and we love to play Jewish geography that when I meet another Goldstein, I get so excited. I was a couple years ago, I was a part of this really fantastic comedy festival called the Red Clay Comedy Festival in Atlanta, and I met a New York Jewish comedian named Freddie Goldstein, and we kind of met towards the end of the festival and then became friends on Facebook, and now he's my buddy. But I immediately felt like a connection to him because of the Goldstein and because he has very curly red hair. And not that I have red hair, but I always wanted red hair.
Yes, you wanted to be Annie, to be clear.
Yes, yeah. And he's very funny too. He's very funny too. But I just, I was appreciative that he didn't give me the stink eye for like wanting to be pretend cousins with him, because that has happened before. Or people just don't understand. Some Goldsteins don't get it.
No. And I do have a kinship to Goldsteins. I agree with that. The leadership group I was part of, we had a small little, it was informal and unofficial. We didn't have a Facebook page or anything, but a small little Goldstein club. So we were, we would take pictures, and there is, like, you feel like even my sister-in-law is a Goldstein, right? Which is crazy. So we both married Lebovitzes. So we're both Goldstein Lebovitz, which is even crazier, but they're from New York. So she's very clear about the fact that we're not related, but
oh yeah. And I'm in Atlanta, and the Jewish population here is ginormous compared to Birmingham. And everyone's like, oh, are you related to these Goldsteins? I go, we are not related to the Atlanta Goldsteins. We're related to the Alabama Goldsteins. And I think there's 2 sets of Goldsteins in Birmingham, aren't there?
There's yes. Goldsteins? And I was going to say that I always did grow up a little bit upset that we were not related to the Goldsteins who were the furriers back when it was still PC. But because you know what? That Goldstein man, he would show up to the high holidays and he would have on a big mink yarmulke. And I thought that was amazing. And I'm like, are you sure we're not related? Mommy would say, nope. So
I don't remember him and his furry yarmulke.
That sounds like that could be naughty.
No, sounds like its own Facebook page. Well, thanks for listening to the latest episode of Sis and Tell podcast. Hope you've been enjoying season 6 so far. If you hadn't had a chance, leave us a review on YouTube. It does nothing but make us feel good about ourselves.
As always, this has been Amanda and Alison with a whole lot of talk about a whole lot of nothing. We'll catch you next time.